is amazing. We were just watching, if you didn't know, that all the networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, the CW, Fox, did that tribute to Norman Lear, the man we are going to celebrate tonight. I'm sure all of you know by now that Norman passed away last night. And I'm sure many of you know here on Stars in the House that Norman made a lot of appearances. Why? Because his son-in-law, Dr. John Lauk, the chief medical correspondent of CBS News, our friend, and is the chief medical correspondent of Stars in the House since our show began in March of 2020. So this is in honor of Norman Lear, but also John Lauk and Kate Lear and the entire family, because we love them so much. And they've done so much to not only bring amazing entertainment, but also have done so much for, I think, the nation and the world.
He has done.
He has done, yes, absolutely. So we wanted to celebrate him tonight, and we have the bulk of the show is going to be One Day at a Time reunion. That, again, if it hadn't been for John Lauk, we wouldn't have been able to put together. That we hosted in the summer of 2020. And you're going to see that here. But we also have David put together some great clips, and we also have live with us in a little bit. Seth, go ahead.
By the way, I'm going to do the annoying.
Yes.
If you don't know who we are, this is the fundraiser.
Well, I was going to say, then we were going to get to that.
I just feel bad because
That's
people
fine.
just tuning in being like, wait, what? So yes, we do have live one of the stars from All in the Family. She was basically like 1 year old when she was on the show, 10 years old. And she's going to talk about working with Norman Lear and Carol O'Connor, and we're going to focus only around 3.5 hours of her experience in Annie, because of course that's my obsession as well. We have Danielle Brisbois, the original Molly from Annie, who wound up being Stephanie, Archie Bunker's basically niece, who he winds up raising on the show.
Right,
so we're going to talk to her about her experience with Norman, and we're going to show clips, and then we're going to show a compilation of clips from One Day at a Time, but also other Norman appearances and Dr. Lauk and lots of fun stuff.
Yes. So, as Seth said, in case you don't know who we are Stars in the House. We began in March of 2020 as a benefit for the Actors Fund, now the Entertainment Community Fund, which is a nonprofit that's been around since the 18-something, to help people, professionals in entertainment across the nation, people on stage, backstage, now on camera, behind the camera, and definitely they were in great need of the strikes that thankfully have ended in the entertainment industry this fall. But we are here. Our base has always been theater, which is actually perfect because Norman's home base was theater. And in fact, we were talking about it. I mean, a lot of his stars, I think part of the reason why Norman's shows were so grounded and so wonderful is he had stage actors a la Bonnie Franklin.
I mean, all of his stars. B. Arthur was obviously from Mame and Fiddler on the Roof. Bonnie Franklin was from Applause. Sherman Hemsley was from Pearly. Carol O'Connor was from musical theater of The I Sing, right? That was his big show. Gene Stapleton, Funny Girl.
Yeah, right, exactly. Funny Girl.
Sally Struthers Reverse, when I'm doing Grease on Broadway after. But all of his shows he would go see a Broadway show. I mean, the story, you're going to see me tell, but basically Bonnie Franklin told me that he had seen her in One Day at a Time. And
you mean seen her in
Applause. In Applause, where she played the role of Bonnie, and she does a number on the Tony Awards. And he brought her to his office and just kind of chatted with her. And they were developing a show about Meredith Baxter Burney's real mother who was divorced. And he just chatted with Bonnie Franklin and was like, hey, do you want the job? And there was no audition, no casting director, no screen test, nothing. He gave her the gig, and the show ran for 11 seasons. He had that kind of brain where he was like, that's the person for the role. He was a real artist. And by the way, she was a divorced mother. I mean, no one was divorced on TV in the 70s. The leading character was divorced. Everything he did was of progressive social values, and that's why also he formed People for the American Way. He did entertainment and social justice at the same time.
So like I said, we have clips, but I wanted to, because Norman would want us to do this, I think, talk about theater. We saw some great theater this weekend.
Yeah, it was a lot.
And we want to promote them because these are two Broadway shows that should be promoted. And should
speaking
be
of Sherman Hemsley, we saw Pearly Victorious. So Pearly's based, there we are.
There we are, yes.
Pearly's based on, the musical Pearly's based on the play Pearly Victorious, which is great. It is so funny, directed by Kenny Leon. Leslie Odom Jr. is a star, and it's just
brilliant. Everyone in the cast is amazing. Leslie, it's a tour de force. I think it's closing at the beginning of February. You have to go see it.
Yeah, go
if
see it.
you're
I
in
mean,
New
it's
York.
very Norman Lear because it's really funny, but it's fully progressive social values at the same time.
Absolutely. And I had the good fortune that my high school choir director, hi Betty Rowe, and her daughter Wendy, who I've known since I was 14 years old, came up to New York because Seth was hosting Red Bucket Follies. Oh, and there we are with our friend Haven Burton, who is one of the stars of one of the other shows we want to recommend. This right here, How to Dance in Ohio. So amazing. I think it opens this Sunday. We saw it. There you
I
go.
am with the cast after the show. We met after the show. They were all outside. And it's a wonderful show. It's based on, as far as I know, it's a documentary about kind of young adults who are on the autism spectrum who decide to do a dance kind of as a like a quinceañera. What's it called? Like a, what do you call that when you go into adulthood? Like a, you know what I'm talking
A
about.
celebration of life?
No,
or
because
what?
they say there's always something that leads you to an adulthood. They go like a bar mitzvah,
Right.
something.
Right.
Not a barrier, but the point is they decide to do a dance, and that's the documentary. And then they have this musical where the actual stars are on the autism spectrum, and the music's amazing, the staging's amazing. Haven is so fantastic, and
Yes.
we just loved it. It's called How to Dance in Ohio.
Absolutely. So right there. And then you hosted Red Bucket Follies.
Yeah.
Which Norman would have loved because it was a variety show of the best of Broadway from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and forward, from Len Carey singing "Send in the Clowns" to Lilias White with Dream Girls, and everyone can go to your Instagram because there's a lot of
What's amazing
there's a lot
is
of stuff on
David
there.
Katz was there standing in the wings filming up a storm. So there's so many great clips. And actually, I have some I haven't even posted yet. Jennifer Lewis, not safe for work, doing her amazing numbers. So yeah, go to my Instagram and my Facebook, and you'll see incredible clips in the Red Bucket Follies, incredible Broadway performances. And all the money, of course, from that event went to Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS. They raised totally around over $4 million, and the highest winning show was Merrily Roll Along. They raised for Broadway Cares over $600,000.
Incredible. And speaking of, we are here for the Entertainment Community Fund. So if you would like to donate in honor of Norman Lear,
because,
please
boy,
go to starsinthehouse.com, and you can forward your donation to donations at Stars in the House.
For what reason?
For
Are we
the
gonna read
Entertainment
that?
Community Fund.
No, but I'm saying, are we going to read them? You forward the donations? Are we reading them?
Yeah, I mean, David, are we going to be reading
That's what I'm just wondering
donations?
if it
We
matters.
haven't talked about it.
So maybe we could do that on the next show if we don't do them tonight.
That's right.
But just so you know, I mean, the strikes are over, but the strikes would lasted a lot of months, and people really depleted their money.
That's
so
right.
yes, people can get gigs again, but the entertainment community, I mean, they were just recovering, quote unquote, from COVID, and then immediately the strike. So people are definitely needing some money.
So, like I said, David, I think I want to reverse the order here because speaking of theater, the show that Seth co-wrote and starred in on Broadway, Norman Lear came to.
That's not how I met him, though. Are we saying how I actually met him? Because he met me in Largo.
Well, I think that's where did I meet him there?
I don't know if you
know,
you
but
were
go
sleeping
ahead.
that night. No, remember? No, Joe,
No, that's
remember
right.
You and Joe
and I
were
was so
exhausted.
upset because we flew and it was like 1 a.m. New York time, and Seth was doing a late show. I'm like, I gotta go to sleep. And then the next morning, basically, Seth was like, well, if you had gone, you would have met Norman Lear. I'm like, oh my gosh. But
we have that?
I had the good fortune. I don't know. No, actually.
Oh, okay.
But we had. But he talked about it. Norman remembered how much he loved Disaster.
Oh,
and
Disaster,
so,
yes.
Yeah. So
he
show
saw
the.
me. Oh, yeah. I'm
go ahead,
sorry.
Seth.
No, I was gonna say he saw me first in L.A. and then we got to invite him to Disaster.
Yes, and he and Norman, being Norman, was there when I saw him during intermission. He had like a documentary crew following him or something, and so they were all in the lobby of the Niederlander Theater, basically eating their dinner, which was sandwiches. They were
Norman
like,
was too?
oh yeah, Norman. They were like just standing there eating at the front. Yes. So, but we have that Thanksgiving clip, David. So this is from Thanksgiving 2020. And Seth and I are in the kitchen. We were the Thanksgiving episode, and there's just a and Norman. Yeah, so just show that one, David, right now.
And do you guys remember? I joined you on stage on Broadway.
Do I remember? I made you get on stage, and you begged me. You said, "Do I have to get up on that goddamn stage?" And I said, "Absolutely." You were at my show, Disaster. You were so nice. Thank you, Norman.
We haven't seen Norman. We haven't hugged him for many, many, many months, like so many other people. And 2 weeks ago and a day, we came out to LA with the express purpose of quarantining for 14 days, which we did apart from him. And yesterday, we're going to be here for another 2 weeks so that we could come inside his pod, which we did yesterday, and give him a hug. And you want to describe that moment of hug?
Just like this.
Just like that.
Oh.
But we waited 2 weeks for it,
We waited 2 weeks
and
for
that
it,
was not easy.
and it was worth every second of the wait.
And if you want to see the slow motion replay of when I hugged him,
Yes.
it's like this. Oh, thank you. It's amazing. Anyway, that's what it looked like.
We believe you.
That was one of there were many amazing things that came from Stars in the House. But basically, after a while, you didn't know where John would be, especially when things opened up. And it's like he may be with Norman, and he would just show up. There would be appearances. I mean, David didn't even have time to look for all the different clips that he appeared. But I did want to say that that I'm proud of my husband here, because this is what Norman Lear had to say.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
It's the weirdest story, just so you know. That
Oh, go ahead.
It was a last minute. Judd Apatow was doing an event, and I really barely know him, but I kind of know him a little bit. And I just was like, "Hey, can I be in your comedy show?" It was so pushy of me. And then he said, "Oh yeah, come." And James and Julie were exhausted because we flew to LA.
Right.
And I went on at like 10 o'clock, which is like 1 a.m. So they weren't there. But the point is, I did like 5 minutes of deconstructing on stage at Largo. And then after, I saw Albert Brooks was there with Norman Lear, and I was just like, oh my God, I really love them both. But I was freaking out the most over Norman Lear, and I just freaked out meeting him. And then amazingly.
Yeah. So David, put up the picture, because this was on Norman Lear's, I guess, Instagram or Twitter. There it is. Albert Brooks and me, after having enjoyed one of the most hilarious and original performers of all time, Seth Rudetsky. Okay. Like I said,
I never really realized it said that till like you're reading it right now.
Yes.
That's a crazy amazing. Like,
I
that's
know.
amazing. Oh my God. I knew that he liked it, but I don't. Wow.
And that's when I knew I had made a mistake by going to bed. Let's show one more clip. So before we bring on our guest who's going to talk about Norman, as you just saw in that Thanksgiving clip, they had just come out of their pod of quarantining for the 14 days. And so they were going to be there for another 2 weeks. And so I loved those 2 weeks so much because Norman made several appearances. Oh, right. But this one in particular was just, and David did a great job of editing it, so it's just a taste of it. But you can watch those episodes in November and early December of 2020 if you want to look for Norman. But I think it kind of says it all, especially the love that they have for each other, and just like just the realness, really. Go ahead, David, roll it.
We have a man coming that traveled the country with the Constitution. Am I correct?
And he happens to be here with his son-in-law, who's our chief medical correspondent, and he moonlights at CBS News.
Please welcome Dr. John LaPook and Dr. Norman Lear.
He just has a PhD in funny.
Hi guys, good to see you again.
That's
Now this is going to be my son. Hello. Hey Ben.
Ben, you're on. Ben's not going to love this. Ben, we're on Stars in the House, and Norman has never had a phone call that he has not picked up. I mean, in the middle of a podcast, in the middle of being wherever, he's picked it up.
Are you there, Ben?
Yeah, I think we lost Ben.
I think we lost.
Remember that great cell phone episode in All in the Family where Edith is trying to get Archie on his cell phone, but it's stuck in his chair and Meathead's sitting on it? Anybody? Silence.
A phone call is a request to talk to you, which you can accept or deny. You can grant it or you can deny it.
Do not school Norman Lear, Dr. LaPook, on manners. We will not have it.
I denied 11 phone calls in 98 years.
I love that he always picks it up. You call him, he will pick up the phone. Vaccines around the corner. Hang in there.
Number 4 were people in white hats.
People in white hats, right up.
Well, and this, in conclusion of your segment, I agree. We all agree. Bless Norman Lear.
Oh,
from Claudia.
Thank you much. Thank you.
It's actually Melissa Manchester's sister who did that comment. I want to bring out Danielle. So you want to
Yes.
introduce her, Mr. Musical Theater Annie lover.
Yeah. Oh, Mandy, step on your nose. She has a new last name, which I will not acknowledge because she will always be Danielle Brisbois to me because of the back of the red album, as I call it. Please welcome Stephanie from All in the Family, Molly from Annie, and now an amazing songwriter, by the way, Danielle Brisbois. Lachey. Hi.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hi, Danielle. It's so good to see you.
It's always good to see you guys.
I was so excited the way you wrote about Norman, because it is a lot of kids do have a hard time doing TV and film, and a lot of the big wigs are not so amazing with them. So I love what you wrote today. So can you talk about, did Norman, I guess, saw Annie before he met you? That's how he knew about you. He saw Annie.
So yeah, it was a weird route for me to get to him, but Charles Strauss wrote the theme song to All in the Family.
Right,
of
of course. Yeah.
So-
That's right, Annie. Right.
When I was in Annie, I did Molly for almost 2 years, and I was getting too big to play Molly. And the creators of Annie were like, "Well, do you want to wait 6 months in a smaller part, and then you could do Annie, or what do you want to do?" And so my theory was, and Charles Strauss actually helped come up with this theory, was take some time off, go to LA, see what you can make happen.
Oh.
If it doesn't happen, come back and do Annie in the 6 months. You didn't have to wait in a smaller role, kind of thing. So went to LA. We had a bunch of different meetings, and one of the meetings he set us up with was Charles introduced us to Norman Lear. And I guess Carol O'Connor had seen Norman Lear had seen Annie, as you were saying, how we'd see people in plays. And I think
Right.
with Carol O'Connor, they were together. So I go into Norman's office, and I have this giant, like a black kind of like artist book kind of thing. You have the page covers in it. Like you just put art and picture. My mom would put like every article on me, every little thing, like, everything. I went in there with this like big giant thing that was bigger than me, and like a tape recorder player. And I wasn't intending on singing because I hated singing in offices. But I was showing him all this stuff, and then Norman's like, "Do you want to sing a song?" So I was like, "Okay." I sang my favorite, which was "Soon It's Gonna Rain." As like a 9-10-year-old kid, I was always singing "Soon It's Gonna Rain." It was
Barbara of you.
I loved that song. And then I sang "City Lights." Those are the two songs.
Liza.
Yeah. And when I was done singing, I noticed that people were like, had his door open, and they were looking in. And one of the Carol O'Connor was walking by that hallway at the time too. But Norman sat there and he goes, "Wow, Danielle, you've just done so much for me. What can I do for you?" And me and all my childhood wisdom, I said, "Put me on the show. That's why I'm here." And next thing we know is the next day they called me back and they're like, we want to write a part for you on the Family.
Wait a minute. Hold on. So when you walked in there, did they not know that they were going to write the part of Stephanie?
There was nothing. It was one of those things like you were just saying. I just heard you talking about Bonnie, right?
Right.
How they didn't. It was just kind of like, yeah. So that they were like, "You here? Why don't you do? Well, we're going to write a part for you in the show." And it was an interesting decision because at the same time I had been offered like a kind of a production type deal with Paramount as well. But we chose to do All in the Family because it was, how could you not do All in the Family? I used to watch it before I was on the show. And
That's what I was going to ask you. So you knew the show.
of course, yeah. I'm from Brooklyn. Of course I knew All in the Family. I think every relative of mine is Archie Bunker.
But did you know, like, I mean, you were a showbiz kid. You had been in Annie for 2 years, like you said. So you knew, you were, unlike most 10-year-olds, you understood that Norman Lear was.
I was 9 when I started the show.
Oh, you were 9.
Yeah.
But you knew that Norman Lear was like the head, the top guy there, or like
Yeah,
were you
well,
intimidated, I guess is my question.
I was always a credits watcher as a kid. Like even with when I had sheet music, so I was looking at the writers, and I would go across the street to the Brill Building when I was a kid, when I was with Phil Blacks, and I'd sit in the hallways and try to listen to them write songs. And I was always interested in, who are the creators? Like I just, with Martin, I got to be around these amazing creators. So I knew it was more than just the actors.
Right.
I used to watch I Love Lucy. I think I memorized all the credits. So my first day on the set of All in the Family, when I walked down the hall and I saw Bob Schiller and Bob Weisskopf, I was like, oh my God, these are the I Love Lucy writers. So I knew who Norman was. I was always watched all the credits because I always somehow in my A-type personality brain as a child, it was like, know who those people are, because that's how you'll get the jobs.
Well, then were you intimidated? I mean, you really knew probably more than most kids who he was.
No, because I don't know. I just wasn't intimidated. I was probably more like nervous to sing, just because every time I would go to sing, I would just get nervous for a minute. You know, like right before you sing, you do something, you just you feel hideous for like 30 seconds before you do it, and then you do it, you're okay.
Right.
I was probably more thinking about that than about anything else. And you know, I guess after you perform for your Italian aunts and uncles in their second floor walk up in Brooklyn, everything's easy.
But no, when that role came, did you think it was one episode? Like, did you know it was going to be this long?
I knew it was going to be because they were writing me in the show. Basically, it was at the time when Sally Struthers and Rob Reiner were leaving the show.
Right.
And they needed something to, quote, fill in the gap. And they didn't know what it was. And so when they met me, the idea came and they wrote it. So it was, you know, I had to move from New York to California. So it was a real situation. It was a real situation.
Yeah, Danielle, it seems so natural because I was watching the show at that point, and it just seemed like it was such a loss for a fan of the show of like, how can the show go on without them, without Mike and Gloria? And then when you came in, it was such a natural.
Yeah.
And by the way, I was really jealous. I was a little kid watching TV in Texas, loved All in the Family. And I was like, there's no way I could ever be on that show because there are no little kids. There's the baby. And then you got the role. Yep. And then you were so adorable, and you were perfect. You were a great actress, as well as I loved whenever you sang on the show.
Thank you. And I know Seth was jealous that he wasn't an Annie as well. So
that's right.
You both have something in common with me.
I was
exactly.
But I was furious. He was jealous. There's a difference. And fuming, single by female style. Okay, so
well, actually, that's a good setup for the clip.
Okay, so what would you want to show? Which one do you want to show first?
I think that's a natural for the.
So we want to show the Annie clip first before showing All in the Family. So this is the Tony Awards.
This is how Carol and Norman saw her.
Right. So because you were featured, you know, it's funny, by the way, when you say one of the smaller parts, what were they going to offer you? Like July?
I think it might have been. I don't want to insult anybody. So
okay,
I'm
let's
not
just
going to say which one. But
very good, Danielle.
I was trying to go first.
We all know, don't we? We all know.
We know. If you know, you know. So I want to show Danielle on the Tony Awards. This is the brilliant choreography, by the way, of Peter Gennaro. You work with so many great adults. Was Peter Gennaro kind to you as well, like Norman was?
Yes, the kindest. It's interesting because I always say I'm so lucky. I never had regular school. I never had this quote unquote normal like society life, but I learned so much just by being in the presence of these great artists and great people. And you know, like Peter Gennaro was. When he was choreographing, I know we're talking about Norman, I'll just really quickly, when he was choreographing Annie, we were in the beginning of the whole thing in New York. It wasn't like he knew Molly was going to tap. He didn't know. Basically, he would go, oh, you do this good. Let's, so Molly tapped because I was an idiot savant to tap when I was a kid. And then Diana was very, hey, how are you? And it became, so they made all the roles. He took what was natural and made it work. And he was just so, if you ever watched the Annie Christmas special, which I'm sure you've seen it,
yes, dear.
Yeah. So you know that when he does his dance with everybody and all the kids are just in love with him, you can see how in love with him we all were. And you can just see that was the kindness shining through him, how we were all so excited to dance with him and be in that section of the show with him.
And if people don't know, Peter Gennaro choreographed all the Sharks for West Side Story. He did the Mambo, he did America. So we're gonna watch this now. It's where Carol O'Connor first saw you. And my final question is, when you do the amazing feature at the end, Nene, were you wearing knee pads, or you were 8 and you were
I was wearing knee pads, but I swear to God, like at this point in my life, I think it damaged my knees a bit.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
I was wearing like 1/4-inch knee pads or something.
It was worth it though, because I love it. I don't care if you're damaged.
I love it too. It was my moment.
Okay, let's watch also Diana Barrows was very proud of her high kicks. Watch those.
Yes.
Okay, here is Danielle Brisbois and the whole cast of Annie. Hit it.
Without
It's no wonder Norman said, "What do you want?" Come on.
I have twin daughters that are about to turn 10 this month, and realizing now that I'm 7 years old there freaks me out. Looking back, like how the fudge.
When you're that age, you're like, I could do anything, but then you realize how young you were. You're like, how did I ever? God, you're so good, and that staging is so good. James, talk about this amazing clip we have of All in the Family.
So Danielle, help set this clip up, because if I'm remembering it correctly, you were Edith, Gene Stapleton's niece. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And you came and lived with him, but then I think your character, Stephanie's father, I think wanted you back. And so this is a moment.
Well, he didn't really want her back. He was basically
kind of manipulating,
threatening, basically saying, "Hey, I want her." He basically is threatening. He doesn't really want her back. And Archie's realizing, anyway, you realize in the scene that Archie's going to come up with a plan, because your father really didn't want you back.
The story where he was a merchant marine and he was kind of a bum. And my mother, his I don't know, his wife who died was Jewish and he wasn't. I kept getting bopped around from different relatives after my mother died, and because he was never around and really didn't want Stephanie to begin with. And the bunkers are one of like the 20th place I finally bopped into. And but he would come back sometimes asking for money and he's going to take me away. And that's what you're going to see is.
So he's basically saying, I'm going to take you away. I'm going to take her away unless you give me money.
Yeah.
I see.
And I think he also tries to steal them. I'm having a party and somebody gives me like a money tree and we catch him stealing the money.
Oh, God.
Well.
And in typical Norman Lear fashion, you being added to the cast, it wasn't like this just cute kid.
Not at all.
There was real substance to.
Well, at the time there weren't a lot of kids on TV. There were kids on TV, but it wasn't like it turned into later on. It was kind of a newish type thing to have kids on the show, especially an adult show. It wasn't. So it was
right.
I was always treated like an adult when I was on the set. I was allowed at the table of reads to sit down with them and give my point of view or come up with jokes and whatever. Nothing was ever off the table because I was there working just the same hours and more because I had to do school as well as all the other actors and actresses. So I was treated with equal respect, which was always really nice.
Well, you were treated with equal respect because, as everyone will see, you're amazing. And this is for copyright reasons. David divided the clip and it's 1 minute, but we have to stop at 30 seconds and then begin the other one. But this is part of it. So David, hit it.
If your father was to walk through that door right now and say, "Steffi, I've come to take you back," what would you say?
I'd say I couldn't now. I got my school term to finish. Amy Bloom wants me to go backpacking with her this summer. And I'm a relief pitcher for Little League.
That's nice.
Why did you ask me for? Why did she ask me?
Nobody knows.
That's so hilarious.
And perfect Norman Lear.
He can do both. He turns on a dime to the comedy.
Yeah. It just the crowd of geniuses I got to be with was insane. I'm just like, I really peaked at 9. I mean, how do you go from being around these people to anything else in life? It's pretty much done.
But Danielle, the amount of time, it's like a play.
Yeah.
They just let you act. And it's so real because you're really thinking and you're not thinking what kind of direction did they give you? It's so real.
I'm always a big believer in is if you expect people to rise to a certain occasion, they do. And being, these great artists like Carol O'Connor and Norman Lear, and they let people do that. They were like, you're here for a reason. Let's give you you do what you need to do. Nobody ever made you feel like you had to rush through things, and those kind of pauses and those kinds of moments were encouraged on the set, because those were that was the realness. Carol once said, it's not the lines that matter, it's what you do in the spaces between.
Oh
You
my
know what I
God,
mean?
that's exactly how I teach singing. It's about the air. That's amazing, because that is what's so moving when you just look over at him. It's so beautiful.
Right. And I was mimicking the greatness I saw with me with Carol as well. And
Right.
that's how he would act, and that's how Gene would act. And I mean, even down to like working from Annie with Martin Charnin, there were a lot of those kind of moments as well, that were put into the direction of that show. So I was lucky to have been around people who were, great directors, great writers, great producers who understood that. I somehow fell in. I always played orphans, by the way, too. I was always an orphan.
Right.
Your signature.
I'm always the kid nobody wanted but loved in the end. But it was, I don't know where that came from. It just was, 'cause I never took acting lessons. It was just just being able to acknowledge when I was a young kid that these were people you wanted to learn from, and I respected them, and I took their cues, and they gave me the space to. They let me do it. They believed in me. They knew I could, so I did.
I mean, Norman set that bar. We're gonna
Yeah.
say,
What I was going to say was because, by the way, we have some auditions. We have some donations we'd love for you to read, Danielle, before you go. But I just realized it's like this wasn't as much as we love All in the Family. Norman had so many shows on the air. It's like did you see him often? Like how was he able to juggle so much?
The first year of the show, his office was right there in the same building. I was on the set. He was on the set all the time. I was up in the offices. He was, just so, when you're a kid and you meet people, you ding, like great or not great. And just if you like people or not. And Norman was just the loveliest man. What's interesting? I compare his energy a lot to like Jimmy Carter. Like when I met Jimmy Carter back then, it's that same kind of loving, welcoming, like calm, passionate and thoughtful energy that you rarely get from people. And usually people like that. People think, oh, they're a pushover, but they were so powerful in that beautiful energy that they put out there. And the things that Norman, I remember even being, when I was a kid, like wanting to be on that show because it was important. Like, what that show taught people, what that show, like half the shows on TV would not be possible if it wasn't for the risks that Norman took with All in the Family.
Yeah.
And all those amazing, Carol and Jean and Rob and Sally, just that, what they did and with the braveness they did, and Norman's vision. Just to turn TV on its ass and wake people up to like this, father comes home at 5:00 thing, mother's got dinner on the stove, is not reality, people. He had people living together. He had people, same-sex couples. He had everything. He dealt with everything, and he put it out there with love and and that it should be seen. That all of these people needed to be seen, and even Archie, who was the other end of the spectrum, but he needed to be seen too. And Norman found a way to create this world where everybody felt okay watching people they were uncomfortable with and bringing them into their homes and learning from them.
And he made it okay because of the humor.
Yeah.
I remember one of the episodes that stood out the most, because I remember watching it live. I want to say it was in March of '78. You were on
live. You mean it was on?
No, like when it was on the air, not in like reruns or something. You were on the show at that point, were you or not?
No, 79.
Then maybe you remember this episode, but it was the
Maybe
rape episode.
I
where,
wasn't in that episode, but I do remember.
You know which one I'm talking about, right?
Yeah,
and I was
of
like,
course I
as
do.
an adult, because it's a 2-part episode, and she's left alone, and you see her. It was so dramatic of her escaping from him by throwing the hot cake in his face and running across, and her dress is coming off, and she runs into Archie's arms. But as an adult, I remember going to the whatever it's called, the Museum of Broadcast in Beverly Hills when I moved to Los Angeles, and they had the episodes before YouTube, because I wanted to count how many laughs there were, because I knew that I must have remembered it because of the humor. it's been a long time, but if I remember correctly, there were over 50 laughs,
Right.
not just like a chuckle or a smile, but laugh out loud, including, of course, when Jean Stapleton is in the kitchen trying to escape the rapist.
Yeah.
She's able to, that Norman
he
created
balanced
these
that.
worlds.
Yeah. It's, as I said, Norman also trusted his actors to, as you said, he knew who was right for things and he trusted them to do it. I mean, everything, when you were saying that earlier, I was like, oh my God, bingo. It's exactly right. And it wasn't like I never had to do auditions for that role. They just put me in it. I just showed up on the set one day and that was it.
And it's such heavy acting, and he knew you could do that from Santa Claus we never see. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's like a big moment.
Yes. So Danielle, thank you so much for coming on. But before you
Let's
leave,
do the
could you
donations.
read some donations or in the chat?
Look in the chat.
Okay, so here we go. I'll start from the bottom up. So from David, he said, sending love to Norman Lear's
Well, that's not
family.
David. David sent it to you, but it's a different name.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I know how this works now. Okay.
Yes.
Sending love to Norman Lear's family and to the SITH core fam. Stars in the house. Isabel in Germany. Wow. Hi, Isabel. $20.
She's awake.
Wow. Another one from Seattle Susie Q says, or Susan, aka Seattle Susie Q. It is so sad we have lost Norman Lear. It is. But it's so wonderful we had him for 101 years. We are so lucky to have his life work to see and appreciate forever. Deepest condolences to Mr. Lear's family. Stars in the house, core fam member Susan, aka Seattle Susie Q. $50. Wow. So generous. Everyone's so generous. Another one. Please see below for my receipt for my donation to the Entertainment Community Fund in memory of Norman Lear. Debbie Klein, $100. Wow, thank you, guys. This is so awesome. And this one says, thank you for this special episode in honor of a very special man with very special talents. Heartfelt condolences to Dr. LaPook and the entire Lear family from the Stars in the House core family. Thanks to his appearances on the show, he felt like family to us as well. Jan K, $25.
This is also lovely.
Yeah, it's really true. With Dr. LaPook, and when we were doing so many shows that first year, Norman just became, I'm sure if you looked on our IMDb page, he's one of the most frequent guests that was on Stars in the House, was Norman Lear.
What a guest. I mean, you can't really get better than him.
No, we were spoiled. We're like, hey, Norm.
Yeah, that's just Norman, give him a few minutes here.
So lucky.
Well, on that note, then, I think that we will show, because I don't know if this was his last appearance in Stars in the House, but last year, Danielle, we did a 11-hour marathon when the war started in Ukraine. We did it for the International Rescue Committee.
To help everyone being displaced.
For helping the people being displaced because of the war. And Norman, of course, called him, asked him, and he said yes.
People don't know, by the way, he founded the most amazing group, People for the American Way. If you can join that organization, they are brilliant, and he founded that. It's just such progressive values, and he's brilliant. So that'd be a great way to honor him, is by joining them. Anyway, go.
But he came on the show, and you'll see his generosity of spirit and hope. And he talks about that. And then this is a little clip that David put together, because the cast of the Gilded Age, we did it here in our apartment. Norman was in Los Angeles. And so Audra McDonald and Christine Baranski and Celia Keenan-Bolger, who else was here?
Cynthia Nixon and Katie Finneran.
And they were all like, Norman's on, because they had said Norman could only be on for like 5 minutes, right?
And if you see Katie Finneran acting crazy, she was downstairs with me. When she saw Norman was on, she started going, Norman, and she crawled up the stairs. It was just, but you'll see, because it's the aftermath. But Norman.
Yeah. But it really kind of sums everything up. And I love Audra and what you'll see in the clip of how much she says it for all of us, that how much he meant to the world.
Yeah.
So we're going to show this, and then we'll come back for a minute, and then we're going to run one day at a time.
Fantastic. And that
Danielle, thank you
I don't
so
get
much.
to say hi to all those people here. Please give them all my love. And tell Valerie, I used to covet her Corvette in the parking lot when I was like 9 years old.
You were on the same.
You were all in the same lot. Yeah.
Oh. Well, guess what? This is a repeat of the One Day at a Time episode, so she won't be here. But maybe she's watching.
Next time.
We hope she is.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you, Danielle.
Thanks, guys. Have a great. Thanks for all you do, guys. It's so good to see you.
Oh,
thank you for being so talented.
Right. Bye.
Is there anything that gives you hope in what you're seeing with the world uniting?
I have absolutely no problem with hope. I don't want to wake up the morning I'm not hopeful. I'm
Yes,
with
sir.
hope every every split second, and in my lifetime I've had good reason to hold on to that hope. But this is a more difficult moment, I think, for our America than I've seen before.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Norman Lear.
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you. All right. You be safe, and we'll be seeing your son-in-law and your daughter on Monday. We love you. Thank you.
Oh, is this the conclusion of our conversation? Is this it?
You look, you're Norman Lear. I know the Gilded Age people will stay as long as possible. They said not to keep you more than 5-10 minutes, and so I didn't want to keep Norman Lear more than 5 or 10 minutes.
James, Seth, all of you, I'm happy to cooperate. If there's anything more you want, fine. If there is nothing else, fine. I admire you guys, and I'm perfectly fine talking as long as you want. As a matter of fact, it's not dark yet, so.
Is it all right if I bring on some of the biggest stars and best actors in the world just to like say hello to you right now? Audra McDonald and Christine Baranski and Katie Finneran and Cynthia Nixon. Is that okay? And Celia Keenan-Bolger? Well, you could say hi to her right here. Here she is.
Oh, Audrey.
Hello. Oh my goodness. Just thank you for your words. Just listening to you speak is just it's so heartrending and necessary. Thank you for your wisdom and your words and everything you've given us.
You are too kind, too kind. Now there's somebody sitting with me that's telling me I should be finished. Say again?
Liana was saying a few more minutes.
Okay.
It's your word.
All right. Well, you know what? Say goodbye then to Cynthia and Katie and Celia Keenan-Bolger. You may know her. Won a Tony Award for To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway. And Seth Rudetsky, Cynthia Nixon, and Katie Finneran. Everyone say hello and goodbye and thank you.
Thank you. We love you.
We love you.
May I have a word, Norman?
I couldn't have enjoyed this more. And I feel I know Seth Rudetsky better than anybody else that I've been talking to. Is that correct, Seth? Wherever you are?
I'd like to know you better, Norman.
She's upstaging me.
Let's erase that.
Norman, I'm obsessed with you. That's why you know me so well, because I'm basically a stalker. But Katie Finneran wants to get a job in your next sitcom. She's completely obsessed with you, and she has 2 Tony Awards. Katie, start auditioning.
Obsessed.
She's got
I'm
it.
obsessed.
Christine Baranski, were you going to say something before Norman Lear leaves to him?
No.
Oh my gosh. Just love
hi.
and adoration, of course. And gratitude, profound gratitude for your wisdom and for what you've done with your perspective on America. These are dark days indeed, but I loved your statement about hope. Indeed, we must continue to wake up with hope.
Thank you. I will, and you had just had something to do with that. Thank you all.
Norman.
Thank you, Norman Lear.
Norman.
I think I'm sure that I speak for most
Norman,
of
I
us.
love you, and I love your hat.
Katie Finneran, the audition is over.
With or without a hat.
Okay. But I will say before you leave, I'm sure that I speak on behalf of all of us here that believe in the importance of activism and the arts, that you have been a leader in that. I know I will speak for myself, that I am an activist because and an artist, and the combination of the two of them because of you and what you have done for decades and decades. So thank you, Norman Lear, so much.
Can I close with one short story?
You can, and guess what? This is how we're going to do it. Not me. There, go.
It fits this moment. I was walking through the woods with Marty, who was a professor of philosophy and religion at the University of Chicago. We were in Vermont together, where we were taking a hike together. And I said, Marty, give me the shortest definition you could give of the word worship. And he said, one word, Norman, gratitude. And I couldn't believe anything more. I couldn't be more grateful for the opportunity to be with you guys. I think the world of all of you, and what you care about is what I care about. So, love to you all.
Thank you, Norman.
Bye.
I know, right? It's really, it's one of those things that I think, Seth, for the rest of our lives, at the end of our life, and the end of our lives, end of my life, it'll be like, I cannot believe that we get that he knew our names.
I
That
agree.
we got to speak to
I
him.
agree.
To ask
He's
him
everything I wanted
questions.
to be, like a creator and social justice activist.
Right.
He's everything.
And to hear Danielle's stories about him are just, which we're hearing from so many people. And you'll see in a minute when we show the One Day at a Time reunion, which is amazing. But I want to read a donation, and then we've got a couple of pictures, and we're gonna go into that. But this is, let's put on the glasses here. Seth and James, kudos. You are always in the moment, and for that I'm grateful.
Oh, very nice.
You bring back for many of us childhood memories and special times through your shows. Tonight's program is no exception. Thank you for the entertainment you always provide, as well as for keeping all of us aware of the issues that are part of our world and how we can be a small voice in making a difference. Donna from Ohio, $25. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you, Donna. Two things I want to say. Well, first of all, Leslie Odom Jr. just texted a photo of all of us backstage at Pearly.
Right.
Here, David, show everyone backstage. There's a ton of us. This is from his dressing room. So that's Megan and Brian and me and James. And then, I love that picture, God. And then as we were leaving, Leslie couldn't believe that Megan and I have the same backs of our phones. By the way, I don't think they're so outlandish, but I don't know. Maybe I'm a little Glinda. Anyway, Leslie took a picture of me and Megan. Let's see that. This is, I don't think they're that outrageous, but you see Megan cackling. I'm going to be I'm in California this weekend. I'll be at the Wallace.
Yeah, we're
doing
leaving
2 shows
for Los Angeles tomorrow.
And I forgot to tell you all, speaking of Danielle, how about this for Stars in the House? She literally said, we can do a show where she has all of her boxes, actual physical boxes. She's going to come over with any memorabilia and go through it. The original script from Goodspeed, the cassette tapes of performances. I know. You know, by the way, Sarah Jessica Parker will want to come and be there for that.
Yes.
So I was like, you coming over? I mean, Andrea will come up for that. So we're going to do an Annie special.
That's
we're
so
we never did one in person before. but now
No,
we'll
we
do it.
haven't. And I was in Dallas with Julie or in Houston. I was in the Woodlands, Betty Rowe. And I was with Julie because we were seeing family down there, so I didn't get to be a part of that.
The Annie reunion.
We watched it though from the hotel room.
So we're gonna do another one where Danielle has all those boxes. I may by accident keep all those boxes.
So tonight in New York, it's gonna get down to 28.
Yes.
Really cold, and so I was like sweep because we're going to Los Angeles tomorrow, and we were sweeping. I was sweeping the leaves, and I was just really getting into all the nook and crannies. And I thought we have some rose bushes. We're in a garden apartment, so which in New York means that you're on the first floor and you have a yard. We're very fortunate. And I had cut the roses back. I'd pruned them, but like maybe a month ago, and as you're supposed to do. And I noticed that there was one that I had missed, and it's gotten below freezing, but it's really going to get colder tonight. And literally, I think this is like a sign. It's like literally in December.
Oh my God, it's December. I just realized that. Look at that. It's so beautiful.
And I kind of feel, and this was the last one, like one I just didn't get. And I felt like, wow, that's so perfect. And if John LaPook, if you're watching, this is for you, because I know you, and I know that you would look at this as a sign from Norman of just all the love and the joy that he's spread and will continue to spread for all of our lives. That legacy is forever. It is a legacy that will live forever. So with that, Seth, I say, let's roll the One Day at a Time.
One Day at a Time. The stars of that show and Norman Lear talking about that amazing show.
Yes.
Anything else we have to say? All right. See you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
One of the producers of One Day at a Time and the legendary.
And the current one.
And that's right. And the current one, Norman Lear.
Norman.
Hi, Norman.
Norman, I love the American flag in back of you. It is very people for the American way. Thumbs up.
It is. I'm in Vermont at a place family place, and it's my family's Hyannisport, and the Yiddish Hyannisport.
So Norman, start from the beginning. How did you decide to create this show? You've had so many amazing shows on the air. Why One Day at a Time?
Well, I have 5 daughters and a son, and at the time, 2 daughters, and talked to Whitney Blake and
Alan Mannings.
And
Alan Mannings.
Alan Mannings. My God, how could I forget? And we talked about our 2 kids, my 2 kids, and theirs, and they wrote the pilot script, and Patricia Palmer produced with us.
But why a single mom? You're not a single woman, are you, Norman?
Well, no, but I'm thinking about it. There hadn't been a divorced woman on television with children, and surprising as that may seem today, it wasn't so then. There was nobody, right, Pat?
That's correct.
And so it was very new to have a divorced woman and 2 children, and you know, Patricia Palmer, I want her to talk a little bit more, because nothing would have happened without her. Alan Mannings and Whitney Blake and Patricia Palmer were the stars of the show off camera.
Patricia, how did you get involved with One Day at a Time?
I had done a series for Norman called Hot L Baltimore. I was a script supervisor.
Okay.
I did Hot L Baltimore. Show was canceled, and then I got a call from Norman. I've got 3 shows, and the one I want you to do is One Day at a Time. And I went. He said it's about a woman newly divorced with 2 daughters. I went, well, okay, you know, I guess that sounds all right. Not as interesting as the other 2, but all right. If that's where Norman wants me, that's where I go. So that's where I went, and I spent 9 incredible years. I have friendships that last to this day, and memories that are deep in my heart.
But when he says he wants you, like, you know, we're from the Broadway world. Like, you know, what does that mean? Like, what is he wanting you to do for One Day at a Time?
Well, at the time, for the first season, I was the script supervisor, the book, helping, you know, watching timing and everything. And then from season 2 through season 9, I became the producer. It's hard to explain exactly.
Just interrupt to say there is always somebody on these shows who holds it all together, whatever his or her title might be. Patricia Palmer, every show she's been involved with, she is the glue that holds it all together. The cast, the crew, the script. It doesn't happen without this woman.
And Patricia, you're working on the current One Day at a Time now also, right? Yes.
Yeah, Norman and I sit next to each other. We look around and go, wow, look at this. It's pretty amazing, and I'm very blessed. The new show has the heart and soul of the original. That's for sure.
But it's a Latino family with
Latino family, but it has that same, you know, heart, with a little sauce.
Patricia, speaking of heart and soul, you sent. I love these pictures that you sent me a few days ago, and I feel like, speaking of heart and soul, from the original to the new one, can you explain this?
Yeah. Mackenzie just clapped.
Bonnie collected red-headed dolls. They were all over the house. Her sisters gave that piece of pottery to me after she passed away. She sits upstage in the new show, and she watches over all of us. I feel her presence all the time.
Here it is in context of the current set.
Here it is.
Oh, wow.
There
I
she
love
is.
that.
The first time Mackenzie saw her, she went, Bonnie. I didn't even have to explain. So,
I just love it. Now, Norman, I had Bonnie on my radio show a couple of years ago. And just for the viewers out there, the one thing I do know about television is that, you know, you audition low level, higher. Then you have to go to network, you screen test. It's a very long process. Bonnie's story was nothing like that. Can you talk about how you found Bonnie Franklin?
Would you repeat that story, Seth?
Well,
I found she existed. I saw her work. I knew she was, and I cast her as much as I remember.
But your version of casting was you basically just had a conversation with her. You didn't have her screen test or anything. You were just like, hey, do you want to do it? She was like, yeah.
Because I knew the same thing was true with Valerie Bertinelli, as I recall. But you go with your gut in this business. Nobody knows that better than you two.
But no one in the network was like, wait a minute, we want to see her also.
Well, they did see her. They saw her in the first episode.
That's great.
That's hilarious. So, we were talking about, it was such a different time in the 70s, which we think was so long ago, but it was actually very advanced with the social issues your show brought up. Did you ever get any pushback from the network? Like, you're not allowed to blah, blah, blah.
Do you recall, Pat, any real serious pushback from the network?
The real pushback came with Bonnie. Bonnie, the standards and practices lady, would come every week. Bonnie refused to wear a bra. And they were constantly going, her nipples are showing, do something. Take her off, put Band-Aids on, send her back. She just would not wear a bra. And that
during the show.
Put Band-Aids on those nipples. You cannot go out like
that. Okay, well, that's not quite what I was expecting. It's very interesting.
What's the story that Bonnie told, Seth?
Oh, no, well, just the story that she told was about how she was doing applause and that basically you just talked with her about one day at a time, and she thought it was going to lead to a lot of reading scripts and filming. And the next thing she knew, she was actually filming the show. She said there was no long process at all. I mean, it really was magical. And you were right. I mean, you really knew. Do you remember finding Mackenzie? How did that happen?
Casting pretty much happened that way. And what Bonnie may not remember is she read a half a page before I said, I'll never forget casting Carol O'Connor as Archie Bunker. I flew out to California. I was starting the casting in New York. I flew out to California, and I might have seen 20 people in New York, 4 of whom might have played Archie Bunker. And then I came out. Carol O'Connor walked into a room, sat opposite me at a bridge table, read the first page. And I said, I don't have to hear any more. And that was it. He nailed it. Now, when an actor nails a role like Bonnie Franklin nailed her character, as a writer, you never knew what the character was. You only had half an idea. And then an actor comes in and takes it over. And now you have the character that might have passed through your head and you couldn't grab it until you had the actor.
I love that. That's so interesting. And it's so honoring the actor as well, to how they help create the character too. I love that you said that. It's great for the actors out there.
It doesn't exist without them.
Patricia, you sent me this amazing, beautiful picture of you and Bonnie. What was it like meeting her for the first time? Were you in that room with Norman when Bonnie came, or did you meet her after she'd been hired?
No, I met Bonnie at the first table reading. I remember it because I was the script supervisor. Right. I remember it as clear as if it was yesterday. She was wearing rolled up jeans, rolled up, and blue espadrilles. And I think when the girls come on, they may remember it too. And she was full of life. And she had that red hair with the bob thing, and she'd whip her head around and her hair would move. She was full of life every minute. Every minute.
We're talking just for one more second about the casting, Norman. I just realized Carol O'Connor came from musical theater. Bonnie Franklin had won the Tony Award for applause. Sometimes there's a prejudice like, oh, theater actors don't know how to do television. They're too broad. It sounds like you welcome theater actors. Gene Stapleton also. You like having theater actors on your shows, right?
I love having theater actors. I grew up in Hartford, and I was allowed when I was 17 years old or so on a Saturday to go into New York on the New York-New Haven-Hartford Railroad, see a matinee and come home. And I was utterly in love with theater. And the way I view all of the actors that we worked with, Patricia and I, they're all stage actors in the sense that they take over the role, they inhabit it, and they make the essence you thought of, they make come alive.
I love it. You've done a lot of shout outs for actors today, and I really appreciate it. We want to bring on two other actors who you may recognize from a couple of episodes.
Let's see. I think let's see who's in the picture. I think both of them are in this photo.
There they are.
That Patricia said. So let's bring them out for real. Let's bring out Mackenzie Phillips.
Julie.
Hi, Mackenzie.
Hi, everybody.
And Valerie Bertinelli. Hi, Valerie.
Barbara.
Hi. I've already started crying, so I don't know if I'm going to be any good here at all. Hi, Pat. Hi, Norman.
Hello, Valerie. Hello,
I
Pat.
love you guys.
Hi.
Hi, Val.
I just lost my ear. Oh my God. I miss you guys.
It's so great to see you guys.
You know, I was just thinking about what Norman said about Pat. And, you know, a script supervisor, people are always like, a script supervisor, whatever. That is the most challenging, difficult job anybody on a set can have. They have to be watching everybody, everything, answer all questions, know what everybody's doing with their arms, when they're doing it, what they're picking up, when they're picking it up, when they put it down, props. They need to know everything. And Pat, yes, is a master at that. And that's probably why she's such an amazing producer. Every script supervisor should be a producer. I mean, they're the unsung heroes of every single episode of every single television series.
Couldn't agree more. That's why the glue, they hold it together.
So,
Sorry,
Mackenzie.
I'm getting my earpiece.
Oh, yeah, put it back in. Mackenzie, what's your memory of getting the role in One Day at a Time?
I remember going in and meeting with Norman, and there was a big oval table, and we sat at the table, and I don't remember whether I read or not, but I do remember Norman, I remember you telling me that my face in repose was lovely. And I remember you saying something to the effect of, I hope you're aware that therapy is the backbone of the American family. And I don't know if that was like, you know, maybe you could use some kid, but I remember so much. I have so many memories. Maybe they're not necessarily chronological, but they're so vivid of being a part of the family on One Day at a Time, and the new One Day at a Time, frankly. Yeah, but
Mac, do you remember when you actually got the role? Were you offered the role at the Oval Table, or did you get a phone call?
I remember, and I don't know if you guys know this, but we did a pilot where Bonnie Franklin's character had one child, me. And it's actually up on YouTube, and I can't remember what it was called. I'm sure Patricia remembers.
Hello, Anne.
Hello, Anne.
Of
It's
course
on
she
YouTube.
Hello, Anne.
Oh my gosh.
And the network saw the pilot, and they were like, yeah, not this one. And then Valerie became my baby sister, and we had a hit.
Was Pat Harrington in the first one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Valerie, how did you get the role?
Well, I was not a theater actor. I was 15 years old, just turned 15. And I'd made maybe 7 commercials at that point. And by the time I met Norman, I was on my 4th callback. And I remember, Gladys was our teacher, right, Mac? But the casting director
Yes.
was
Jane Murray.
Jane Murray.
Yes.
So Jane, I remember, she kept calling me back. And by the time I got in to see Norman at CBS Television City down on Fairfax and Beverly, I walked in and Norman was there. And I was, even at 15 years old, I knew what a god Norman is and was and still is. and I sat down next to him and I read just a few lines. And I don't know, Norman, if you said it in the room, but I did find out at least later that I reminded you of Maggie, your daughter.
Yes.
And it was that I got the role that night. And I remember Jane coming and saying, everybody can leave. And then she looked at me and said, can you just stay right there for a second? And my heart just flipped. I thought, did I actually get this?
Yeah.
Did I actually get this? And I was over the moon, obviously. And the first person I met was Mackenzie when we went to do the read through. We ended up in the elevator together, and
oh my God,
we've been real sisters ever since. Whether we talk to each other or don't talk to each other, fight or don't fight, or hug and love each other, we are true sisters. We're just sisters from another mister.
always and forever.
Yeah, I love you.
I think I said something to you. I love you too. I think I said something to you in the elevator, like, so you're going to play my kid sister.
Yes. And I was so
Right?
intimidated
And I
because
think-
I saw the posters for Rafferty and the Goldust twins were all out on the bus stops right then. And I had
Right.
seen you all over the posters. And I knew about American Graffiti. And I was like, oh my God. I didn't know who Bonnie was. I didn't know who Pat Harrington was or David Mazur. But
Richard Mazur.
yeah, meeting Richard Mazur, sorry. He played David.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm one of those
exactly.
horrible fans, right? That get the names wrong. Yeah. Everyone who calls me Barbara, it's cool.
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah,
Listen,
exactly.
look at this really cool comment from someone, from a viewer. My friends and I went to every taping the first 2 seasons. We were 14 years old, sat next to Valerie and Bonnie's parents. They were all really nice to us. Amazing memories.
Wow.
Yeah, our parents were there at every taping. Bonnie's and yeah.
14.
Well,
Norman-
Valerie and I were, we were school age. So we had our teacher, and my Aunt Rosie was my guardian, my father's sister, who kind of raised me, and Valerie's mom, Nancy, and they would sit together, in the rehearsal hall all day long, and they'd be reading books or knitting or doing whatever. And then Valerie and I would have to go off with Gladys to our schoolroom, which was right next to the rehearsal hall. And then we'd be like, come on, we don't want to go to school. We want to play, That's right. Valerie was 15 when we started, and I was 16. So we're 6 months apart. And it was just like magical. There was magic in that room, in that rehearsal hall. And now when you're doing a 4-camera situation comedy, you don't start in a rehearsal hall with tape on the floor like we did. You are all week in the studio with the furniture and the props and everything. So we were in the rehearsal hall Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, blocking on Thursday, shooting on Friday. So
Like theater.
we had that's when Norman said about theater, we're performing in front of a live audience. Every episode was performed in front of a live audience, and everything was blocked out. I mean, I've done a lot of theater, and it's very similar to putting up a new show. Every week you're putting up a new show. You're blocking it out and you're learning your cues, and it's pretty cool.
And with one day
And
we
were always
would do
treated like one-act plays. We
we
had
would do a 5:30 show and we'd do an 8 o'clock show. And
Yes.
we'd have dinner in between.
That's right.
They don't do
And
that.
And
would-
now they
that way
just
anymore.
do one show and it takes 4 hours.
Right.
Did things change very much in the script, Pat? Like
Between the two
two shows? Would the writers change anything?
Sometimes quite a bit. And everybody had maybe a half hour to 45 minutes to learn their new lives. And they went out and did it brilliantly.
It wasn't often though, because our writers were kind of amazing. But it wasn't often, but when it did happen, it was really scary.
And would it be based on like the audience reaction at that first taping? Is that why changes would happen?
Yes.
Like what joke worked and what joke fell flat,
And
a whole
Norman,
different animal now.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
But Norman, were you? How heavily involved were you? Did you set it up and then leave it to your babies, or were you there constantly creating the show with everybody?
Well, I was part of it, and I was, I believe, there.
Yes.
I never missed a rehearsal or a taping, or I was quite involved.
I have I
So-
have all of my
We had
scripts
some
from
great
one day at a
writers,
time.
wonderful writers.
And we would get new pages or new scripts would come down, and my favorite scripts that I have from one day at a time, up in the right hand corner, it has 2 words: Lear polish.
Oh,
So Norman would do a polish. Remember that, Val?
I honestly,
get-
that I don't remember. I remember other things about us writing in the sides of the scripts, trying to get boys to like us, but I don't remember any Lear
Yes.
polish. Isn't that terrible?
Lear polish. Do you remember that, Patricia? Yep.
Norman was
Polish.
very involved.
Yes.
After a few seasons, Norman turned the show over to other people who were running the show, but his heart was always with us.
Yes.
Always.
We were
Norman
talking
was
about the
definitely
heavy.
there for the very first season. For the first, I think it was we had 13, and then we went to 15 episodes
Right.
for the first season. Pat.
Yeah,
And then
exactly.
I remember Norman was there every single day, and very helpful. I know that Norman pulled me aside one day midway through the season. I was so green, you guys. I did maybe a couple commercials, and I couldn't believe I was on set. I was learning so much every single day, and I started to feel like I fit in. And then Norman pulled me aside at one point and said, "I can find you an acting coach." And of course, the first thing I'm thinking, since I'm so freaking sensitive, it's like, I suck. Oh my God, I'm going to get fired. But no, he was helping me. And I'll always appreciate that, Norman. Always. Because you made me a better actor, because I went to that acting coach and I learned how to do subtext. I learned how to do all of those things, along with comedy, learning from, Pat, and along with everything Bonnie taught me. God, she was like a second mother to me. And everything I learned from Mackenzie. I appreciate all of it, every single bit.
Come on, that's wonderful. But you were the original gift, and everybody is there to help, as was Mackenzie, the original gift. The gift comes with
Speaking of Bonnie, Valerie, I found this little bit of a clip, because we're going to bring on Dr. LaPook for our medical break in just a second. But I wanted to show this clip because it says so much. If this is a clip, I think it is. It's when you were pretending. I don't know if you remember this episode, that you were on the pill, and I love Bonnie's. She was so great speaking of theater, with business. Like, she knew how to work that set and the props and make it look so natural. And it's so subtle here, but I love when you enter and then her reaction and the two of you together. I'm going to just show it real.
Hi, Mom. Barbara Jean Cooper. Bye, Mom. Hold it. Next pot, close the door. Julie told you. Yes, thank God. And what is all this about the pill?
I'm not on it. I just want the guys to think I am.
If they think you are, you'd better be.
Well, it's getting me a lot of dates.
Oh, come on, Barbara. You know that's not the way to get dates.
No, but it's a shortcut.
Barbara.
Just so good.
She was amazing. She knew how to, honestly, she knew how to take a script apart. She knew character development. She knew arcs. I learned all of that from her, and I'm still a student. She was amazing. Amazing.
I love that.
And she had a mouth like a truck driver.
Which we both learned too.
I love that about her.
Yeah.
Me too.
When would it come out? Would you get angry, or would you just be sassy?
I never saw Bonnie angry.
I
saw
never
her
saw her
intense.
angry either.
No, she was intense, and she was direct, and she was sure of what she was about to tell you, that she was right, and she always was right.
Wow.
But she was also very open to someone else's opinion and what they had to say.
Wow, what a mom!
I love
Had
it.
a great
she's
surrogate mom.
fabulous. Yeah.
She
So speaking
was
of
amazing.
family-
We would come in for a table read on Monday morning, and she'd be like, no, this is not how it's supposed to be. And she'd start helping to rework it. And she was like a bulldozer, a lovely, wonderful, brilliant bulldozer who had the courage of her convictions and what she thought the show would be. And I also really appreciated how they let me and Val say, teenagers don't really say that. That's not the way teenagers really talk now. Because, some of our writers, were older men, and they had the comedy thing, but they were using the wrong verbiage, and we were allowed to sort of move it around to make it funny and make it work for us.
That's
I
yeah.
remember one episode in particular, and Mac, you might remember this too, is there was an episode about drinking. And we had a bunch of boys over to the apartment, and they were all drinking. And it was a lighthearted, very funny episode, and you know, and it just ended in a way that didn't really take anyone to task for their drinking. So through the week, it got more and more serious. But it is exactly what Norman's shows do so well: is take a subject that is very uncomfortable, and we need to learn something from, and we need a moral about it. And make it funny, and she was adamant about that episode not ending the way it did, and it did end with a drunk driving incident and somebody, I believe, dying. Pat, am I wrong?
Yep, that's right.
Wow.
Yeah. So and it did not start off that way, but Bonnie was like, no, if you're going to talk about drinking and teenagers, make it have some
gravitas
behind it.
Wow. Dr. John Lear LaPook.
Under the same roof in a different room, Dr. LaPook.
Guys. Wow, that was fun. I mean, Norman's like a father-in-law to me. Oh, wait. He is. I won the father-in-law sweepstakes.
What was your audition like for son-in-law?
Amazing. You know, I got really nervous, and he walked me around the block and said, what are your intentions, young man? And the next thing I knew, I was married.
It worked.
John, I have a confession right now. When we had that call on March 16th when we started this whole thing together, and you said I'll be the medical correspondent for Stars in the House, I was secretly wishing the whole time that you would be the in, so that we would have a one day at a time reunion.
I see.
It was all leading to today.
And I don't
you're fired
at all. I know.
Totally kidding. No, but I have been hoping like how cool it would be. And then when you said that Norman was going to be, you were going to have some time together in Vermont, I was like, okay, this is the moment. And then Mac had just been on the show with Grease, and it all just fell into place. And here we are. So what are the updates? Not to bring us down, but are
no, I'm not going to bring you down. And the last I want to say about Norman is I've had imagine having a masterclass at the feet of Norman Lear for 37 years, which is what I've had. Yeah, 37 years. Pretty good. And I have to say he's helped me not only as a human being, but as a physician. No kidding. A lot of the stuff that I've picked up from him and his daughter, Kate, somebody I'm quite fond of. Anyway, we'll move away from that. I said that all because, I want breakfast tomorrow, and, we are up here in Vermont.
All right.
All right, let's bring them all out, Seth.
So we've got the fabulous Norman, his sidekick. We've got
Pat.
his TV daughter, his other TV daughter. Then we have the man who stole one of them away, Mr. Michael. What the hell are you getting up, Michael? I can see you moving. What are you doing, Michael Lembeck?
He's getting ready.
Focus on the camera, Michael Lembeck.
Laura.
Hi, Michael.
You're Michael. Hi, Val. Hello, Norman. I'm glad to see you. I'm glad to see you.
God, this is so cool.
And don't forget, sort of your brother, best friend, sidekick, everything, Mr. Glenn Scarpelli.
There he is.
Hi, Glenn. Yay.
Hey, you guys.
Good to see you, Glenn.
It's so wonderful to see all of you. This just makes my heart feel so happy, you guys.
Everyone, my God, the comments we're getting, your show meant so much to so many different people. Let's go back to the question we keep asking. Glenn Scarpelli, how did you get the fabulous role?
Well, I got one day at a time thanks to my sister Valerie Bertinelli. Really,
Me?
It is. Yes, Val, you got me the audition. You came to see me in Richard III on Broadway with Al Pacino.
With Al
if you
Pacino.
recall. Yes, and when Bon was looking, when you guys started looking for Alex, Bonnie said to you, Valerie, I really want a kid with theater credits. And you thought of me.
Are you kidding me?
No, that is what happened. And I got a phone call at that point. Norman was chairman of the board. It was still Tandem Tat at the time. and Norman was chairman of the board, and Al Burton, who was one of the guys that ran your company, Norman.
I remember Al. He got me tickets to see Elton John at the Troubadour. When I was 13.
He rocked. And then I auditioned in New York and then flew out to LA and I auditioned for Bond and they showed the tape to Norman and you were there, Valerie. And I got the part that day. And by Monday I was on the set and I never went back to New York for all 4 years of high school.
Oh my God. I
so-
didn't realize that. I thought, because I remember seeing you in Richard III because it was amazing and you were amazing. But I thought,
thank you.
Through the years, I thought that I had seen you after you had gotten the role and I went to go see you, but I was just there.
Yes. Yes, okay. And you actually said to me as we were leaving the Court Theater on 48th Street, that's where we did Richard III, you said to me, Glenn, if there's anything I could ever do for you, you just let me know. And you did something for me.
You did it all, Glenn. You did it all. I didn't get you the part. You got yourself the part.
Thank you. And if I just say one more thing, I went to dinner with Bond 2 days after she shot her guest star on Hot in Cleveland. And she just raved Val. She was going off about how proud she was of you and how you really took that example that she felt she gave to run that show. And all those lessons that she taught you, you applied when you did Hot. And she was just waxing poetic. And I don't know if I've ever shared that with you, but I have to share that with you tonight.
Thank you. Thanks for making me cry.
Oh.
And speaking of Hot in Cleveland, do you realize that Michael Lembeck, he is the director of the pilot of Hot in Cleveland?
He directs everything.
And Mackenzie was on Hot in Cleveland. It's like such a small world.
Oh my God! Well, that means we're gonna have, what that means? We're gonna have a Hot in Cleveland reunion.
Michael,
Norman,
all those years ago, were you in a little off-Broadway show called Two on the Aisle?
No.
No.
But if I was, I'm sure I would be very good in it.
What off-Broadway show did you do?
I did an off-Broadway musical called Angry Housewives.
Yes, I remember that.
At Minetta Lane Theater.
At the Minetta Lane Theater.
Yeah, yeah.
And you also did.
That's right. The first national tour in 72 and 73.
That's right. Wow. So how did you get the gig? So Norman saw you in Two on the Aisle, and how did you?
Actually, it was one of your usual gather the normal suspects and bring them in. It's always me and John Rubenstein. It's always the same 10 guys, and we all came in and read. The first time we read 4 writers, I think maybe Palmer and Janey. Then there was a callback, and the callback was for the Kurgo sisters.
That's right.
And Bonnie and Val.
Yeah.
And I had just done a pilot of The Goodbye Girl. And they seemed to like what I did. And we talked about, I said, if I get called back, should I, the beard, blah, blah, blah. And both Bonnie and Val said, keep the beard. And then sometime after that, there was the final callback. And that was like at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning in Norman's office. And all of you guys were there. Right. And me and one other person came in to read. And then you made me sit out in the lobby for about 40 minutes. And then you brought me back in and they said, okay, you have the part, go down to rehearsal.
Wow.
And I walked in on Monday and the same day I auditioned and started rehearsing. And I will tell you that the thing I take away from that experience with Bonnie is that Bonnie never met anybody for the first time. The minute you walked into wherever she was, you felt cared for, invested in, somebody wanted you to maximize whatever it is that you were trying to succeed at. That's what she did. You felt like you were in her living room. I never saw anybody take in visitors, as we had every week as guests, and make them feel so comfortable. And I took that lesson with me during my 30 years or so now of directing. It's the first thing I think of.
I'm going to take with me for the next 30 years your line. She never met anybody for the first time.
That's her greatest.
I love it.
For me, my experience of her, that's her greatest quality.
Yeah.
So,
Love that.
Glenn, you were the youngest on the show. You had a lot of stuff with Michael. What was it like working with Michael? What was he like? Michael,
Oh
don't
my
listen.
gosh. No, Michael, Boyd Gaines, and Pat Harrington. Oh my gosh. Talk about an incredible influence on a young teenager's life. I'm working with the funniest people in show business: Valerie Bertinelli, Mackenzie Phillips, Pat Harrington, Michael Lembeck. We did with this one episode, Michael, if you recall, where you played my baseball coach.
Yeah,
And-
I
and-
have a still from it.
And you gave it to me at Harrington's funeral.
Right.
I was so touched by that, Michael. Honestly, my home burned to the ground. I lost all my pictures.
Listen, as the girls were saying, and everybody is saying, it's my fondest experience in terms of the amount of laughter every day, the amount of love in that room every day, the fact that we were captives in that rehearsal hall lifeboat, and in a couple of days we got off the tape and into the set. What went on in that rehearsal hall all day, I don't know how we got anything done, but
And at
everybody knew how.
lunchtime-
Huh?
Remember at lunchtime playing hearts or spades?
Oh, sure.
That's where
We
I
would
learned all
play-
my swear words.
with Jacobuzzi?
Yes,
Yeah. My God.
Alan Rafkin.
Ah.
Alan
Yeah, that was
Rafkin,
funny.
yes. Yeah.
We
Playing
had that
cards
thing
at
where we
lunchtime was
always-
my was the most fun.
Jacobucci.
Yeah.
Michael,
I gotta
we have
tell
the
you, if I
baseball.
jump in
Jacobucci on the crawl. Jacobucci on the crawl.
The timing that you asked me about, the timing I learned from
Oh my
Michael
gosh.
Lembeck is absolutely incredible. And Harrington was so generous, right? I mean, like he at one point gave me shtick to do. He wasn't even in the scene.
Yeah.
In fact, he cut himself, I think, out of the scene because sometimes he would do that. He goes, I don't think I'm really needed in this scene. And he gave me some shtick, and it was a scene with Valerie actually. And it just worked over so well. And I left the stage, and he picked me up, and he spun me around, and he was like, "You did so good." Because that's the kind of love that everybody had for each other. on
Yeah,
the
it was
show.
like that every day. Every day.
Yeah.
I have a clip of Pat Harrington. He's so hilarious.
From the blooper reel, right?
Yeah, from a blooper reel. This is the three of you. Very funny.
It is all right for a man to live with a woman, but it is not all right for a woman to live with a man.
All right.
Oh, Schneider is crazy. All right, Julie, let's be frank.
You find something wrong with that speech? Did you find something out of order with that speech?
Yeah.
Did I not follow my instructions to the T? Was I not told to get off on a good laugh? Did I not get off on a good laugh?
That's so great.
So great.
Steph, me and Boyd and Harrington formed a jazz trio called the Big Guy Trio. And at lunch, Pat would play piano, I would play guitar, Beth would play bass, and we wound up playing Sweet Georgia Brown on the Merv Griffin show.
Oh my gosh.
And somewhere
Wow.
towards the end, Harrington drops 2 bars, and he looks at us like, what is the matter with you guys? It's crazy.
Well, there's so much singing on the show. Michael, you sound amazing on this. You and Max sing together, and you're so adorable in this. Look how much music there was on the show constantly.
Picture a little love nest down where the roses cling. Picture the same sweet love nest. That's what the years will bring. Love and marriage, go together like a horse and carriage. This I tell you, brother, you can't have one.
Oh my God,
Still got it.
Wow. I remember that.
Wow. Wow.
Someone has
I'm
a.
gonna go run and get a picture really quick.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
go.
have one. Look, Laura, look at this. Can you see this?
Oh,
Mac.
oh yes.
I found it in a box today.
Wow. Wow.
So
I love
sweet.
it.
Oh,
This is
What do
I
you have,
love
Al?
how Lem calls me Laura.
Oh, me too.
So
I have
happy.
it right there.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
I love it.
You know what? Norman's writers would write us a ridiculous premise every once a year, so we could all sing and do shtick perform for people. It had no purpose other than let them sing.
Yeah, it was the old people's home that you went to.
Yeah, God, those shows were fun.
Those were
someone
fun.
has a
Dude, you
really
were
good
my backup
question.
singers on Duke
And
and Pearl.
Bob.
Do you remember that one?
Yep.
I wanted to mention Dick Mansfield and Cary Grant. They were a writing team that wrote a lot of it. Alan Rafkin was a great director, and there was an awful lot of talent about on this show for those 9 years. That's a long time.
James, what Norman didn't tell you about hiring Bonnie is that CBS said no. And Norman said that I'm taking my show back. And they backed off. But he won't tell you that.
Wait, why did they say no, Michael?
They thought she was too young to be the...
Oh, that's right. I forgot that.
Yeah, of two daughters.
Yeah.
And he stood his ground, and he wins.
Yes, he does. And time shows that he wins. Hey, someone had a really good question.
Norman always wins.
Chris, was there much ad-lib on the show, or did you just do straightly the script? Like, did you add anything while you were filming?
The ad-libbing came in the course of rehearsal. The actors lent a lot to each of the scripts. But when the camera rolled and the lights were on, they were on target, on the lines.
I mean, you guys tell me if you agree, but I think the biggest ad-libber was probably Nanette. She would just, during rehearsal, she just would leave the script. Hey, whatever. God, she was funny. She was the grandma of the set. She was our grandma. That one.
Hey, Glenn, would you talk about your episode with Bonnie where you had that? Oh, can you not hear us? Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Glenn? No?
Sign for him.
Oh, no. Go out and then come back. We got to kick him out.
Are you
When the
talking
sound
to
goes
me?
Yes.
Yeah. Just
I'm going to leave. I'll be
Yeah.
right back.
Okay.
Come back.
Glenn knows the drill.
Thank you. Yeah, we do the drill. So let me talk then to Mackenzie and Valerie. Because talking about the one episode I remember so clearly is when you guys were Kiki D and Elton John. Did you ask to do that? I love that episode. How did that happen?
Go, Mac.
Valerie is a huge Elton John fan.
I thought I was going to marry him when I was 13.
Oh.
Little did you know.
He did get married.
I don't care. But I still have the boots that I wore. I wish I still had the jacket. I have the boots in my office. I don't want to leave again because I just lost connection. So,
Oh, yeah, don't do that.
no, I won't do that again. But I was nervous as all get out because these are all theater trained people. They all have musical ability. I sing in my shower. I sing in the car. That's it. So this was scary for me, but because it was Elton John, I was just going to have fun.
But Val, did it come about because the writers knew how much you loved Elton John?
They did. Yeah. I mean, I had an Elton John poster in my room when you saw Barbara's Room for the first time.
Oh,
So,
right.
yeah. Yeah.
It's
I loved him. And I actually got, again, I want to go get the picture, but Elton John sent me a signed picture after the episode aired. Someone showed it to him, and he signed a picture to me, and I still have it to this day. I was 16 years old, and it was, I remember being in my bedroom, my mom saying, you got a delivery, because you didn't think of 1976, guys. It was very strange back then. It was very different. But yeah, I saw I unwrapped it, and it was a picture from Elton, and I thought I was going to just die.
Of course. It was so clear. I mean, I just found it was so clear in my memory. I remember it so much when I was a kid. Hold on, here the two of you.
A little bit.
Don't go breaking my heart. I won't go breaking your heart. Don't go breaking mine. Don't go breaking mine. I won't go breaking your heart. Don't go breaking mine. Don't go breaking mine. I won't go breaking your heart. Don't go breaking mine. Don't go breaking mine. Don't go breaking my heart.
I thought I was getting so into character, I actually cut sideburns into my hair. No, but it's very intimidating because everybody sang. Obviously, Bonnie was nominated for a Tony for Applause, and
She won a Tony.
Has an amazing voice. She won a Tony. Sorry. She and Mackenzie obviously has a beautiful singing voice. All of these guys have amazing voices, and here I am. So it was a lot of fun for me, but it was really scary.
Glenn, can you hear us now, by the way?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Okay, good.
I love that dress.
Did you keep it, Mac?
Hold on.
I can't hear you now.
Did you keep
No,
the
they
ring?
wouldn't let me have it. I think it was like a very expensive dress, and they had to give it back.
Ah, bummer.
To who? Kiki D?
Oh, that's probably why I
No.
give the jacket back too.
I wanted to, but I
Whoa,
couldn't
Michael
because
Lembeck.
It was like super fancy.
Hold
oh my
on. there's
God,
this-
Michael, you're a heartthrob.
Put that back up. Come on, Lembeck. Come on.
Wait, how did you tease your hair like Elvira?
Those were the 70s, my friend.
What did you say, Val?
He doesn't have to. You see how thick it is?
That's
Oh,
true.
It's natural.
Yeah.
I've got the Jufro. So wait, Glenn Scarpelli, can you please tell the story about that amazing episode where you basically acted out and Bonnie had to hit you and how that came to be?
Oh, yes. And I know Patricia will remember this very, very clearly, too, that we decided early in the week that Bonnie was actually going to slap me in the episode. And that was kind of a really big deal for Bon because, I mean, slapping a kid is a pretty big deal. And the morning that we shot that show, Bon called my parents and said, "Can I drive Glenn to work? Because I just want to spend extra time with him today because I just want him to know I love him. And I don't want him to feel anything but love from me today. Because when we get to tonight, it's going to be a big deal for her." And she came pick me up from work. We had a great talk. We had a wonderful time. And that scene just is so important to me because I feel it was the moment that Alex really got embedded in the cast. It gave me a chance to really, show some wares.
How old were you?
I was 14. I was 14 when I started the show. I was 14 through 18 on the show. And, I'm an only child. And I really had 2 sisters that I adopted in my heart. I feel that way about you guys. And Uncle Norman and my brother Michael. We were so much more than a TV family. And when Mackenzie came back on the show, because I came on the show, of course, when Mac wasn't on the show at first. And when Mac came back, there was such a beautiful bond. And I was so nervous to meet her because I'm like, is she going to like me? I mean, like, what's that all about? And she just came running up to me in the rehearsal and said, "You do such a great job on the show." And that's just the kind of love that was on that set.
I fell in love with you the day I met you. I fell a little bit in love with you the day I met you, and I've been in love with you ever since.
I feel that
love.
way.
You know what I'm talking about.
I get it. I get it. You're safe. I'm a gay man.
Is Glenn speaks to Bonnie's character so eloquently because Bonnie was that person that wanted to make sure that she did everything so that everybody was okay with it. I remember her once calling my mother because I was getting very close to Bonnie. And at an age, imagine a 15, 16, 17-year-old, you rebel against your mother, or at least I did as a teenage girl. And Bonnie saw that happening and took me under her wing, but also wanted to make sure that my mother wasn't offended or scared that she was losing her daughter. Bonnie called my mother and said, "I just want you to know that I'm here for you as much as I'm here for Valerie. And I just want you to know that I'm listening to her and I'm being a friend to her.
Wow.
I'm not her mother. You're her mother." She really put my mom at ease. And I found this out years, maybe even decades later. But that speaks to her character. Bonnie was a true mensch.
Wow.
A true
Here's
man.
that-
And Harrington, too. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, Harrington.
No, I was gonna say, here's that incredible scene where you and Bonnie had to have that argument. It's really impactful.
Father and I. Look, just don't say that, okay? There is no my father and you. There's my father and me, and my father and my mom. You're out of it. I care about you. I care about your father. Nobody asked you to. He did. He did not. Just butt out of our life.
Alex, please be kidding, huh?
Kidding? You think I'm kidding? Well, let me tell you something. I hate this building, and I hate this new apartment that you decorated.
I was being helpful.
You were butting in.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. You were butting in, taking over.
Look, Alex, you are being unfair. You are being totally unfair. You're acting like a brat, a spoiled, rotten, obnoxious brat. And maybe
I damn well better take over because it doesn't look like your mother or father are doing a very good job.
I hate you. I hate you.
Alex!
I hate you. And if you were such a great mother, how come your kids dropped out of school and ran away, huh?
Alex!
Be my love.
You.
Wow.
What a team.
Wow. That was hard for her. That was really hard for her. Mhm.
Wow.
But that's what made that show great. We all had these moments. I don't know if I've ever had a character that cried so much on a comedy.
That's Norman Lear special, that's for sure.
Did Bonnie?
It's everybody involved in the show.
Did Bonnie ever slap you, Val?
Bonnie was a noble woman and a strong and convicted. Her convictions were her strength, and but she listened. She was also somebody, as you remember, Patricia. She could change her mind, and she listened. She was as strong as she could be, but she listened also and changed her mind.
Val, were you ever slapped by Bonnie?
I honestly don't remember. The
I
show
think you
took
would have
place during
remembered.
I probably would have remembered. I mean, we went through. You were back.
Mac, you were?
Yeah, she slapped me in the older man with Jim Hutton.
Yeah.
She smacked me in the face. Yeah.
That's right.
Remember that, Patricia?
Yes, I do.
Did you ever have to
Intense.
worry about
So
like?
intense.
Was the network ever worried about any kind of physical violence? Like, did they have to monitor it, or it was just it was the 70s?
No, they were only ever worried about Bonnie's nipples. It made no
Wow.
sense.
But Val, what about you? You were a teenager. You weren't like a 25-year-old talking about teenage problems. You were a teenager. Were you ever mortified talking about the stuff on TV, like, you know, being on the pill and whatever? You never were scared your friends were going to make fun of you for the private stuff you were talking about?
No, I was only ever mortified if I had to kiss somebody, and I never ever wanted to kiss anybody, unless I had a
You're so
crush on
young.
them. I mean, of course, I wanted to kiss Mark Hamill, but he wasn't there on the show for that. He was Schneider's nephew, which was a brilliant episode, and there were every guy that would come on the show, Mac and I would be like, he's mine, no, he's mine, no, he's mine. She would win every single time, except for Scott Columbia. She would get to go out with every single one of them.
And if I was only out, I would have fought you for them too.
I was going to say, Glenn, yeah. By the way, Val, we have more. You have, for all your I'm shy about singing, you sang up a storm. Watch this sexy number. Word.
You is the sexy, sensuous, sultry Miss Cuddles Cooper.
The minute you walked in the joint, I could see you were a man of distinction, a real big spender, good looking, so refined.
Oh, go ahead, Seth. Go ahead.
I want you to take over. You still got it.
Oh, God. Can we go back to Mackenzie singing, please? Because she's got such a beautiful voice.
I know. Well, she signed off in order to give to cede the floor to you, Val. But I think she's trying to get back on right here.
Oh, thank God. Yes. Mackenzie, please start singing. Please take over.
Cover, please. She's back. So wait, so everyone keeps asking what your favorite episodes were. Mackenzie, what was your favorite episode?
Okay, Bonnie, Valerie, and I get snowed in a cabin in the woods, and we end up we're snowed in, and we end up sort of having this sort of beautiful, relationship where we're all freezing and we're all bundled up and it's cold and we're in a fold-out bed and we start talking about boys. And Valerie's character, Valerie says, "So something about sex," and I'm going, "Oh no, it's nothing." She's like, what is sex like? And I'm like, "Oh, it's really good." And then I'm like, "Oh no, It was just very lovely and very sweet, and I think it really showed the relationship that the three women had as people. It really translated into the characters, especially for me in that particular episode.
That was a good one. We were all cuddled
It
in
was
bed
one of
together.
my favorite. It's one of my favorite episodes.
Yeah.
Me too.
Lembeck, what about you?
I never thought about that. I guess it's a tie. There was so much pressure in my first two episodes. It was a two-parter in which Laura's character is supposed to be marrying somebody else. She brings home and winds up marrying me, and that was the end of the second of the two-parter. And my anxiety over the reaction of the audience when it was revealed that she's standing next to me and not the other guy was overwhelming. And then when they cheered, I nearly fainted. And that's a very vivid memory. And the other one would be the Dear John episode, which was so hard. And we kept postponing because we needed to find a way for Laura's character to write me a note that made it okay for her to leave while I took care of the child. And it was just really hard to get right. And when we did it, it was a really emotional experience and very, very satisfying.
Mm.
So that stays with me forever, that one.
Oh, wow. And Valerie, what about you?
I don't know why I keep going back to the broken nose episode, but Barbara breaks her nose at one point, and I just felt like I finally got to show what I've learned through the years of being on the show and showing all of the points that I was given from Norman, from Mac, from, Bonnie and Pat. And I was able to, for the first time in my actual acting, like cry on camera. And it was a thing for me because crying has always been hard for me in front of people. You would never know it now because that's all I ever do is cry. But it was really hard back then because I was very about holding my emotions and not letting anybody see me vulnerable. So I remember that episode feeling very fulfilling, that I finally felt like a real actor when I had done that show. I felt like I really accomplished something.
Love it.
And Norman, do you have a favorite episode?
Every one of them is a favorite. Yeah, really. I mean, as hard as we worked in a writer's room at a writer's table, that all vanished when we came into a rehearsal. So this group, these two young women and Bonnie and Pat, inhabiting those characters. I mean, it was a thrill of thrills. I just remember a good time every step of the way, and people who really got along.
Norman, we also lived in a very privileged time in terms of how the shows were written and rehearsed. Mm-hmm. And we had two scripts on Monday. Mm-hmm. We had this week's script, and then we read next week's script. Mm-hmm. So while we were rehearsing this week's script, they could get ready for the table read next week's script. And that I have never experienced that since then. And the other thing was there was no mandate that there had to be 20 scenes or that there had to be a first act, and a second act, and a third act. We sometimes had 20-page scenes, 15-page scenes. Yeah. There's a scene I love there. Bonnie and I sit on the couch. It's like 12 pages. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anybody dares to do that anymore. So for us, it was just a privilege. And talk about being in a theatrical experience. That would be one. That would be like doing the first act. That's one scene. Second act, that's another scene. It was a glorious time for us. Really was.
Yeah.
I love hearing it. It was for us as writers and producers also. We had a great, great time. And, the play was the thing. Pat, you were very well aware of that.
Yeah. Norman used to say, as we started, let's read the play. He never called it a script.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mac, I think we'd be a little bit, remiss since we're here for the Actors Fund. I know that when you were here before with Glenn a couple of months ago, you talked about why the Actors Fund was important. Do you mind talking about that for a minute or two?
Yes, because thank you for the donations.
Yes, thank you for the donations coming in. But why was the Actors Fund important to you? Yes, you, Mac. Yeah.
Oh my God! I've had a lot of ups and downs in my career and in my personal life, as certainly everybody on this screen knows, and probably most people out there watching. And there was a time where I couldn't pay my bills. And I was able to access funds through the Actors Fund to help me pay my rent and my health insurance and buy groceries. And it really kept me afloat during a very, very dark and scarce time. So it really does. And it's not just actors. I mean, the guy who carries the cables around, the guy with the boom mic, the guy behind the camera, the craft service lady, anybody can apply for funds from the Actors Fund. And it does like a huge mitzvah, especially during the time of COVID, where actors and artists and crew members are struggling to put food on the table. So donating to the Actors Fund is really a beautiful thing to do, because we all benefit from the work that actors and actresses and crew members do. We get to watch it and it entertains us in our homes. And they have nowhere to go. They're not considered essential. I'm lucky I work in a drug and alcohol treatment center, and I'm considered an essential worker. So I'm still gainfully employed. But were I relying on money from acting to pay my mortgage and the house I've been in for 20 years and so on and so forth, I might be in some serious trouble, and I might have to go back to the Actors Fund. But luckily I shifted gears and I'm cool. But a lot of people aren't in that position.
Yeah.
We had
they
on Tuesday. They are remarkable. But it's interesting you say that about the essential workers, because of course I think all of us, we believe that the arts are essential, and we had on Tuesday, we had a very long episode in conjunction with Americans for the Arts and Theater Communications Group. And really, for anyone watching, go to starsinthehouse.com, and there is an action alert on our website. And if you click that, it's really easy, Americans for the Arts, to go ahead and click that, and to write to your representative and your senator, your senators, and to tell them to include the performing arts in the next stimulus bill, which is going to come at any time.
Help the economy.
Because essentially, artists are essential. And we had people from theaters all over the country that were on saying every theater and performing arts center in the country has a whole economic ecosystem around them. The restaurants, the stores,
the parking garages.
Even the parking garages, they're all there and essential. So please, starsinthehouse.com, Americans for the Arts, they'll take you right to their website. Norman Lear, you of all people, I would love to hear you tell us why the arts are essential.
Why the arts are essential. We learn a lot about ourselves through the arts. I don't know. The thing I've enjoyed hearing the most from people I've met who know something about what I've been responsible for, what I've worked on. What I enjoyed most is when people tell me the show ended and then they and their parents talked for 2 hours, or the next morning at the water cooler. The water cooler was a big thing in the 70s because people came to work the next day, and around the water cooler they talked about the show they had seen. And to think that something we collectively did together mattered to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of people, and that made their lives a little bit better because they learned something about their own human nature, or they learned it in the discussion that followed because it was triggered by what they had seen. To be a part of that and working with all of these people is, how does anybody get more fortunate?
We can't let it die. We can't let the arts die, and they will in a lot of ways unless we are getting some relief. It's so you donate at Starts in the House, and you also go there for the action alert.
Absolutely.
It's the same website for the action alert.
May I say something?
Yeah, Valerie,
yes,
go.
Please.
Oh. Well, everything just froze.
Oh, you froze, Valerie.
Anybody else freeze? Did Norman freeze? No.
But you look beautiful, Valerie, all frozen.
She's so pretty anyway.
I know, right?
Anyway,
Okay.
I have got my
I'm gonna
kissing here and need to return to them before the evening ends.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you leave, Mr. Norman.
Okay,
Lear.
Norman.
I'm gonna stay here.
Hey.
Wait, before Norman goes.
Hi, Kate.
Hi,
Kate. Hi, Kate.
Before Norman goes, he just turned 98.
Oh.
Just turned 98.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Norman.
Thank you, darling. Thank you all.
Happy birthday, Norman.
Hi, Norman.
Happy birthday.
Love you,
We love
Norman.
you.
Love you too. Love you three.
Okay, so he's gonna leave. I want to talk.
But Val, we want to hear what you were going to say. Norman
Yes.
said he had to go, but we do want to hear what you had to say.
Thank you. I'm glad I was able to get back. I just wanted to make a point about the arts and how it has helped the progression of communities across the country and maybe even obviously in the world. That before we did One Day at a Time, you didn't see a divorced woman with children on television. So all of a sudden, a family that watched this that was divorced felt like they weren't alone. We didn't see many LGBTQ characters on television before yes, before Will and Grace, but Will and Grace made it acceptable. And until you see, when we saw all of the Black community welcomed on television with the Jeffersons or Good Times or whatever it was, like you're able to see yourself on television. You're able to see yourself and feel not so alone in the world, and to hear stories that sound familiar to you and make you feel not alone in the world. And I think that's what's so important about the arts, is that it reflects a society, and it also moves a society and a community forward in how we all need to behave and be.
So the Frozen.
It was so
beautiful,
good.
though.
That was so
I know.
good.
Previously, stars in the house.
Oh, no, she's there. She's there. She's there. She's there. She's there.
1, 2, 3. Val,
Yes,
you're back.
we heard
where
everything you
it
said, Val.
I don't know where it ended, but I'm just saying that we need the arts to help reflect ourselves and to move a community even further into acceptance of all people.
Absolutely.
I
I
love
don't
that.
believe that there's races. I don't believe in the myth of race. We are all one. We are the human being. We are the human race. So I want us to feel closer to that as being all one race.
I love it. And just before we go, it is really an honor to be here with an actual sex symbol. So thank you.
Look at that!
Oh, baby.
Oh my God, Glenn!
That's fantastic.
What a great way to end the show.
You guys, it was so great.
Thank you, all of you, so
That was
much.
so fun.
What a great
fun.
evening. All right, Seth.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. You made TV history. Thank
Yes,
you
you
all.
did. All right, Seth, you going to play
Thanks,
us out?
everybody.
Love you.
Bye, Val.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Laura.
Love you guys.
Love you.